Okay, good evening and welcome to Council, Monday, June 24th, 2019. I call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. If you're at home and we're on, sorry, we're having a bit of technical difficulties with our system. Working on that. As always, we'll ask everybody just to turn off or vibrate to your mobile devices and get right into our municipal safety share with Councillor Zingraw.
Okay, so our safety share is on campfire safety tips. Just a reminder, when you are having your campfires, check if there's any fire restrictions in the area. Don't build your fire on a really windy day. Keep fires small and manageable. Make sure you've got water close by to extinguish it. Reminder not to burn any garbage in your fire. And never leave your campfires unattended. Make sure there's someone monitoring at all times. And make sure that if you've got any children near the fire, that you are watching them closely. Accidents can happen near fires very quickly.
Good, thank you for that. And for those who smoke cigarettes, as we get into dry season, put them out, put them in a proper disposal area rather than throwing them out on the side of the road, and help prevent forest fires. Okay. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? We're going to do a couple of verbals at the end, and just in regards to some the unlocked deals through the chamber as well as the marathons. Excuse me, 75th anniversary event schedule. Anything else, Councillor Lake? Okay, so we'll put that under council report.
It should be 11B.
Oh, 11B, sorry, yeah. So under the boards. DSAB. Anything else?
Yes, I have one for the museum.
Okay, so item C under that report. Okay, good. That being said, I have a motion here. The council hereby accepts the agenda for Monday, June 24th, 2019, a regular meeting. Oh, do you have one, Councillor?
No.
Oh, okay. For regular meeting of council, as circular amended. Moved by Councillor Valance, second by Councillor Lake. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of interest this evening? Hearing none, I do have a motion here that council hereby adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council that were held on Monday, June 10th, 2019, as well as the closed meeting of council is held on Monday, June 10th, 2019, as circulated or amended. Moved by Councillor Gingras, second by Councillor Debussy. Any questions or omissions of those minutes? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Delegation this evening, we have members of the Marathon Rod and Gun Club here this evening for a request for council's assistance. Good evening, Mr. Reid.
Hi, my name is Colin Reid. Good evening, Mayor Dumas, Council. I'm here representing the Marathon Rod and Gun Club tonight. For those of you that don't know, I'm the new president of the Marathon Rod and Gun Club. The previous executive that had been in power for most of 5 years resigned, and as a result we have a new executive in place looking after things. The reason I'm here tonight is to ask for council's help. When I went through and looked at the books and our financial situation, one of the things that jumped out at me was we have tax problems, property tax problems, and at this time we owe the town about $1,360 in back taxes. That's what our balance is today, and that's after $1,200 were paid in January. In November, the club was sent a letter saying that the property could be taken and put up for sale to satisfy back taxes because it was in arrears over $1,900 in November, right? As I said, I looked through the books. What I got was all the paperwork that was related to the club was dumped in my lap the beginning of this month when the old executive resigned, and I went through and I looked to see where we stood financially. We had a meeting, I believe it was the 5th of June, 5th or the 7th of June. We had an election, and this is the state where we are. For a club that had $22,000 in the bank 5 years ago, we started the year with $454 in operating capital. So what I'm looking for is tax forgiveness. This club has been part of Marathon for over 60 years. You know, that cabin was built out there in 1949. And it's been a viable club for years and years and years. It has been cyclical, like so many clubs in town. But now we have a new executive. We have young people in the executive. We have volunteers that are enthusiastic. People in the community are enthusiastic about the club. And I just want to start off, the executive, the whole club just wants to start off with a fresh slate, you know. So much of the club, if you've been out there in the last year or so, has fallen into disrepair except for the gun range, because that was the focus of this particular executive. We have other plans. We have short, medium, long-range plans. To do stuff like replace the dock, bring back the fish derby, have community picnics out there on, at no profit. So, but to do that, we have to start off, not in the red, so to speak. To be fully honest about things, we could pay that tax bill, but it would bring us back to like we're scrounging then. So what we're looking for is a good financial footing to start with. And that's about it. That's all I can say.
Okay, so with that being said, I'm just kind of curious, we haven't had any info brought to our attention in regards to this at this point, but what are the taxes annually on the property?
This year, I believe they're about $950. What had happened was, and I'll go back to all the stuff I went through, it was letters from MPAC, it was letters from the town, from an accounting company in Thunder Bay, for taxes that weren't being paid, bills weren't being paid. They ignored the assessment from MPAC, which was 2016, right? Our assessment was $21,000 in 2016. Now we're at $37,500. A responsible executive would have appealed that, right? One of our executive, the vice president, Ryan Carrier, this morning he started the appeal process for MPAC. And he got the job yesterday, last night, to do it. So, that's the kind of enthusiasm a young guy brings to an executive. So we're looking to appeal that, hopefully get the evaluation rolled back. But, from 2016 to 2018, our property taxes went up 40%.
Right.
And that's not a lot for somebody who lives in town, $950. But for a nonprofit organization, that's kind of a kick in the pants, right?
So just clarity for council's information, Colin, you're looking for waiving of taxes for this year or for future years?
From interim taxes this year back. From now on, we'll be good corporate citizens, just like this club has been since
Right.
1949.
So the balance owing is roughly $1,300, what you said at the onset?
It was about $1,360, I think. I
Okay.
checked today.
So let's round it off with interest of around $1,500 you're looking for the club for tax arrears with interest.
Sure, yeah.
Just so we got a
Yeah,
ballpark figure.
yeah.
So, does anybody have any questions to Colin at this point? Councilor Brown?
My only question would be, Colin, would be moving forward then, would the club hire an accountant or someone to be kind of financially at the gears of making sure everything is kind of kosher and straight line moving forward?
Yes, we have one of the beefs with this previous executive was that they said they couldn't find an accountant in town that was qualified to do their tax return because it's an incorporated, the Rod and Gun Club is a corporation, right? Nobody could do a T2 tax return for them in town. And I went down to see Jeannie Allerton, and in 5 minutes she said, I can do that, and I'll do it for you for X number of dollars instead of going to Thunder Bay and paying $600 for taxes. We don't make any money every year. It's a very simple T2 tax return. So yes, that's another thing. They haven't filed for 2 years. Revenue Canada's not coming after us because we don't make any, we don't owe any money, but it's all part and parcel of being transparent and accountable to the membership, right? So yes, we do have a plan to do that. We're getting caught up, but there's so much to do, and we just took it over at the beginning of this month. but we made tons of progress as far as getting the house in order and going forward. You know, we have a property manager, we have a maintenance manager, we have a range officer, so things are looking good.
Anybody else? Councilor Lake?
Yeah, it's exciting to see fresh blood there. I think that's great that you guys are getting your house in order. What are, for administration, what are our options in terms of, is that even something that council can pass?
So if council would like to consider the request from the Rod and Gun Club, it should be referred to administration to bring
Yep.
a report back with options
Yep.
for council at the next regular meeting of council.
Councilor Lake?
Okay, so that being said, I mean, it's great to see the club up and with fresh blood and looking like it's got a bright future. So I'm certainly very supportive of what needs to happen, what it looks like. We'll come back through kind of the options that admin gives us, but it's great to see. And it's also nice to have some communication, right, to see what's
Well,
going on.
Sorry, Ray. Councillor Lake. But one of the things that we're focusing on is bringing the community and the club back together, because so many people have said that it's been like a compound out there. I think you even mentioned it. And I felt the same way. And, you know, in July, what we want to have is a community picnic out there, kids fishing, hot dogs, hamburgers, you know, not trying to raise any money, just raise awareness of what's out there. People buy memberships, not just to shoot guns. They can try out archery, try out pellet guns. They can fish. It's a rod and gun club. Bring the rod part back into it, right? And what I hear, and I wasn't here for this part, where you had those kids' fish derbies out there year after year after year, and everybody's nodding their head about it. I want to bring that back. It's too late to do it this year, but next year for sure, you know? So I have great expectations, great dreams for the club. You know, maybe I say if you don't dream, nothing can happen, right? So, and everybody's on board with it. So,
Councilor Debussy?
Also, you were mentioning your MPAC assessment appeal. We go through a new calendar cycle next year. And if you can, touch base with administration or with our accounting portion, because I'm not sure about the appeal process, because if it's possible that you're appealing your 2018, or would be 16 assessment, can you make it retroactive? Because that would put some burden off of us as setting the precedent of writing off taxes, as opposed to you getting an impact ruling that would be favorable in your sense, so that your tax bill would be lessened.
we've already done some groundwork there, and every year, because it's phased in, right, you have a date at which you can issue the appeal or make your appeal process for that particular tax year. From what I understand from Ryan, who initiated the appeal, they said if you we missed the deadline for this year, which is March 31st, but we could appeal that deadline, so he's in the process of doing that. So if that appeal is granted, it'll apply to this tax year, I suppose, like 2019.
Yeah.
But
And if you can make discussions with administration about it, because I'm not really sure on the impact assessment issue, other than we advise people, if they don't agree with it, to assess or appeal it. But there is some conditions where you can make it retroactive or to a prior date.
Yeah.
So you may want to explore with the administration about finding out those details, or they can forward you to people who would be able to help assist you with that. Because if you were able to get an appeal on that assessment, then it would reflect on what taxes we're owing. It would be similar that we would have to, if you won your appeal, we would have to refund you that if you had paid it.
yeah, I see what you mean. I think by that time, we would owe you the last half of the year, would we not? Anyways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'd be kind of
Okay.
a balancing of the books. You wouldn't be giving me money back, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, the club. It's not my club, it's the community's club, right?
Any other questions? So I think, Colin, that I appreciate the fact that you have a new executive and that there's a team out there that's really willing to get back to a community-oriented facility, because that's exactly what it was for 60-some years. So you're right, we will bring it back. We'll ask administration to bring a report back and discuss the options we have as a council. There are options in the toolbox, and we'll look at all those, and we'll come back with an answer over the next, I think our next meeting in July has been bumped.
July the 22nd.
It is, so it's till the end of July roughly. So we've got about 4 weeks roughly from today to give you an answer back. And it sounds like council is favorable, looking at some sort of remedy based on what we have available for us to make this club viable again.
Right on. I
So thank you.
appreciate the time and
Yeah.
what you can do for me.
Thank you, and thank your team for
Thank
getting
you.
out there and making a change.
Right on.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, up next I have a report on appointment to committees and boards. I have appointment to committees and boards in regards to the Property Standards Appeal Committee. Mr. Brian Matt will be submitted his name and will be taking on the role to replace a member who has resigned for that position. So I need to move in a second to approve that motion. Councilor Debussy, second by Councilor Lake. That Mr. Brian Matt be appointed to the Property Standards Committee. So Councilor Debussy and Councilor Gingras. Any questions? Hearing none, I call a question. All in favor? Thank you, Brian, and look forward to working with you. Okay. Administration report, workplace harassment. Daryl, or no, Kent. Sorry. Good evening, Kent.
Council. The Occupational Health and Safety Act states that the employer shall prepare and review at least annually a policy with respect to workplace harassment and maintain a written program to implement the policy with respect to workplace harassment under clause 3201(1)(b). Joint Health and Safety Committee reviewed these documents, and we did make some changes to the policy and the program. So we're submitting it with two options: approve the policy, program, and complaint form as presented, approve the policy, program, and complaint form with amendments. Recommendation, your administration recommends that option A be selected and that the workplace harassment policy, program, and complaint form be approved as presented, and that administration be approved to make non-material changes as required.
Thank you for that report. Do you have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on workplace harassment policy and program, and that the workplace harassment policy, program, and complaint form be approved as presented, and further that the policy be included in the town's policy guideline manual once numbered? Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Ingram. Any questions? Hearing
Your Worship,
none.
just a comment.
Sure.
The one major change that we've made to the policy itself is we've taken direction from the Ministry of Labor, and we've redeveloped or reoriented our policy to fit exactly what's in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, so it follows the provincial legislation.
Good. It's good. So with that being said, I'll call a question. All in favor? Oh, Councilor Lake?
The one thing that always makes me a little nervous in terms of investigations is the language still says council, CAO, or CSM will investigate complaints. Is that, I thought we had sort of said that council would not lead an investigation into.
So the way that the legislation reads and the way that our policy follows the legislation is ultimately, if there's a claim brought against the CAO, council has to make the decision on how they're going to deal with it. Now, council can certainly, hire a third party to undertake that investigation, but it can't go directly to an investigator without council's approval.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want
Okay, all good? So with that being said, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And we have report on emergency service joint health and safety policies. Kent?
The Occupational Health and Safety Act states that the employer shall prepare and review at least annually a written occupational health and safety policy and develop and maintain a program to implement that policy. The Joint Health and Safety Committee reviewed this document at their March 20th, 2019 meeting and have made some changes to the policy to reflect new requirements of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Again, very similar to the last one, we basically follow what the Occupational Health and Safety Act lays out and what the province mandates for us. So we have, again, two options: approve the policy as presented and approve, or B, approve the policy with amendments. Your administration recommends that option A be selected and the Health and Safety Policy ES 203 be approved as presented, and that administration be approved to make non-material changes as required.
Good, thank you for that. I do have a motion that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on the Emergency Services Joint Health and Safety Policies, and that policy ES 203 be approved as presented, and further that the policy be included in town's policy guideline manual. Moved by Councilor Valens, second by Councilor Lake. Questions? Councilor DeBouchy.
From the heading and the wording of this document, I assume, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that it has to do with the Emergency Services Department, which in our case would be the fire service.
That's right.
Correct? So in an workplace environment, say like the town, it's easy to get the message out and ensure all your staff is aware of it.
Yep.
How are you planning to bring this out as a volunteer organization to all your members? Is it through training, is it through sessions or whatever? Because it's a different environment than a workplace in a
Yeah,
sense.
for sure. As we're going through, we're updating a lot of our guidelines and policies right now, basically all of them. So as we go through and make changes and create new ones, they go out in email form weekly. We do a weekly email blast to all our members, and then we bring them up again at training. And also they have the option of coming to see me if they need any questions answered or anything like that.
Councilor Bush.
And just to follow up to that, in a workplace, normally there's a sign-off procedure or whatever. That's the same protocol you're going to follow.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Thank you very much, Kent.
No problem.
Up next, we have report on establishing contingency reserve fund. Good evening, Mr. Verbo.
Evening, Mayor and Council. On February 25th of this year, Council approved bylaw number 1947, canceling the tax appeal reserve fund and transferring the funds, which was $283,000, to the general revenues for 2018. Council directed an administration to use any operating surplus in 2018 to establish a discretionary reserve for funding contingencies. It is proposed that funds be available to offset the impact of unplanned events relating to volatile expenditures and to pay for unexpected and emergency repairs and maintenance. There may be the need to offset unforeseen bad debts or write-offs of property taxes. The initial contribution will be the annual surplus from 2018, which is $157,000, when the tax appeal reserve fund was collapsed and the funds were recognized as part of operating surplus. It is proposed that any future operating surpluses first be transferred to the contingency reserve to establish a fixed balance of $250,000. Any withdrawal will have to be replenished in the following year's budget. The minimum amount to be withdrawn is $100,000. Withdrawals must be authorized by a bylaw. The contingency fund cannot be used to balance the budget, so there's not reducing the amount needed to be raised through taxation. The operating surplus in 2018 is $157,499. If the surplus is not transferred into a reserve or reserve fund, it must be incorporated as revenue in the 2019 budget. The options are to establish a reserve using the 2018 operating surplus, accept the contribution and withdrawal limits as detailed in the report, establish a reserve to fund contingency with alternate conditions, or do not establish a reserve to fund contingency and transfer the 2018 operating surplus to the reserve for the acquisition of capital assets. Administration recommends that option A be approved and that contingency reserve be established using the operating surplus from 2018.
Good. I have a motion here that council hereby accept the attached report and recommendation on establishing contingency fund, and that administration be authorized to establish a reserve fund and with contingencies using the 2018 operating surplus, and further that a contribution and withdrawal limits be adopted as outlined in this report. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor DeBouchy. Questions? Councilor Lake.
Yeah, thank you for the report, Chuck. I was just wondering, the fixed balance of $250,000, why is that the fixed amount for the contingency?
That was just a number I picked out of the hat, just because nice round number, $250,000, and it was close to what the tax appeal account was.
Councilor DeBouchy.
I understand the reasoning to make it a contingency as opposed to a tax appeal, because the tax appeal is only for taxes, and this is for broader purposes. An example would be the failure we had with the storm water sewer system, or stormwater system.
Correct.
That would be a perfect example of what this would cover, right?
Yes.
Or a failure of our ice plant or something like that, right?
Yes.
So instead of taking it out of general reserves, it's a regular balance there where unforeseen circumstances you can draw, administration can draw from, but it
Yes.
still has to be approved by council, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? So Council Lake made mention of 250, a round number. That sounds fair, and the council is good with that number as a contingency amount. Okay. We had an earlier budget meeting discuss budget surpluses and capital carry forwards. Is there opportunities within that process to look at the wording of those capital processes, capital expenditures not being spent in a year, being changed into a wording change in the actual budget, so it's not considered a surplus in a sense?
Yes, I've looked into the Ontario Ministry of Municipality, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and the term that they use is unspent capital financing. And so I've talked with our auditors after the meeting, and money will be, hopefully that amount will be taken out of the line that's referred to as general surplus.
Okay.
Your Worship, just some information for the public, that I brought forward with the auditors earlier today is that, we're legislatively required to bring in a balanced budget, which means we cannot plan for a surplus through our budgeting process. So when administration brings a surplus forward to council on the operating side, it's generally because we've saved money throughout some process during the year, such as procurement.
Yep. Procurement, snow removal, things that, we can't control from time to time, uses of products and that, so that's great. Just within our own operating budgets, and we look at capital and it carries forward, it looks like we're carrying forward a huge amount of surplus, which has not been spent, which is not the case. We know that as a council and administration team, but for the public's view on the actual surplus, it's really not that number. The number is really, what you see here is a smaller number because we were able to save money throughout the year in regards to procurement or savings on use of materials or equipment or manpower.
True.
Okay, so we can do that kind of wording so that it's reflective that it shows.
I'm hoping
Good.
for
Okay, great.
2018 financial statements will reflect that.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, with that being said, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you for that report. Okay, I do have a motion here for the following check runs to be approved for payment. The accounts payable in the amount of $1,107,752.36 and a payroll in the amount of $241,720.49. Moved by Councilor Gingras, second by Councilor Tabushi. Any questions of those payments? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I have a motion here that council, well, actually, we'll go into the council's updates and verbal reports prior to the motion for the audits. I just returned from my AMO board meeting that took place June 20th, in Orillia, Ontario. There was many items on the agenda dealing with the government change. And of course, the big thing that we all were discussing was the cabinet shuffle already within the first year of this Ontario PC government. That really has an effect on us because as AMO and the AMO executive meet with government on a regular basis at the MOU table, which is a memorandum of understanding table that have very in-depth conversations about all the municipalities that AMO represents, 443 municipalities to be factual. That was a big part of our agenda. Then, of course, there was other items of policy discussions around Indigenous consultation and accommodation, a bunch of different bills that were discussed in regards to how we go forward with our policy changes in regards to AMO's consideration dealing with the provincial government, the AMO conference, which is coming up in August in Ottawa, and the preparation for that. We did have a notification that our executive director is retiring, Pat Vanini, who has been with the AMO board and AMO team for some 23 years. She will be retiring after the AMO conference in August. So we discussed the ways and means of how to replace Pat. Looks like we're going to go internally first with some opportunities for the local individuals who work with AMO within their policy branch. So there's some good opportunities there. All in all, it was a good progressive and productive meeting. It's for me, very exciting to learn about different parts of the province. This is my second meeting, and there's members from all throughout Ontario that sit on this board. And you got mayors from big cities and small towns alike, and councillors and administrators. So it was very good and very formative. The only problem is obviously the travel that's required for us northerners to attend these meetings. But again, to be part of the voice of Northwestern Ontario, you have to have your voice heard. You have to go to these meetings, and you have to be part of the executive to get your voice heard. So I'm learning, and I'm going to bring back as much information as I can for our municipality, but at the same time, I'm bringing the information from our municipality through NOMA, as well as Northwestern Ontario, to hear our voice at the table. So they're really, and as you know me, I know I'm not shy. I do speak up on Marathon's issues, and they hear me loud and clear, and I probably get more volume out of those last two meetings than most members have in the last year that they've attended AMO as a board member. So they know who I am, they know who Marathon is, and they know what's going on in Northwestern Ontario. So it was really good, and I'm glad I attended. Our next meeting will, of course, be in August at the AMO conference. So up next, we have Councillor Lake, who's going to give us an overview on DSAP.
Thanks, Your Worship. So our last DSAB board meeting, we continue to focus on the fallout from the provincial budget. The budget is being delayed this year as kind of some of the decisions of government are rolling out still. So we had that sort of update about where we could go. I think the thing that came to the board that I was most excited about was we have lots of folks from the outlying communities that end up going to Thunder Bay for lots of great reasons, education, jobs. We often send our best, but there's also people that end up in Thunder Bay in pretty desperate straits, often because services don't exist in small municipalities, mental health, addiction services. So one of the things that DSAB's partnered with is Anishinaabe Aski Nation. So to start trying to track, who's coming into Thunder Bay, especially from Nan's point of view, from the reserves, but what services they were lacking, what brought them to Thunder Bay, where they're ending up. I think that sort of migration around kind of poverty and addiction is something we don't do a great job of tracking. So we made the point, lots of us small communities, that it's not just First Nations that have that same experience, but that some of that tracking would be good for us as well. So I think that was a real positive step to see those bridges being built, and I think that'll lead to some good things between DSAB and Anishinaabe Aski.
Good. Any questions, Councillor Lake? Councillor Debussy, Museum.
Yes, just an announcement that the museum will be open all this week in recognition of the 75th anniversary, and our hours will be from 9 to 5. And we would also like to announce that Avery Betts is our summer student, and she'll be starting on July the 2nd. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions of Councillor Debussy on that? None. Okay. Up next, we have discussion regarding 2019 AMO ministerial delegation requests. Daryl, our CEO, has passed out a request about a week and a half ago for council to get back in regards to any concerns they might have had, to discuss with each and every minister when we attend these conferences in AMO. I think this year will be just myself and our CEO attending. I think Councillor Valance was attending, but he had backed out. Correct. Right. So we do need some requests from council in regards to what they see as a priority. I have some items for discussion. I think that at the forefront, and we will have to have a resolution in those. And as always, we have to get the MOE's finalization. Hopefully that'll be in July, but just in case, I think we still need to have that meeting with the minister. There's been a change, obviously, with that ministerial budget cabinet shuffle. So we were going to be meeting with Phyllis, but now he's no longer there. I think it's Urick or
Jeff Urick, that's correct.
Jeff Urick is new minister. So we'll have an opportunity to meet with them. I think we also have to meet with infrastructure to continue pushing forward. We just met with them in Thunder Bay in the spring at NOMA. We have to continue to bring in the forefront of our recreation active living center. And of course, hopefully we're going to have announcement at that, or at least that timeline. We were assured somewhere in the August timeline that we'd have the announcement of the second phase of the funding model from the province and the federal government. So those are for sure. I'd also see something in regards to us as a lead, and I think NOMA's going to bring it forward as well with Northern Development to talk about the impact of the caribou situation. So I think just to the forefront of Minister Rickford, and there's an opportunity just to bring that face-to-face discussion around the impacts. We're supposed to be having a meeting now. It's not his ministerial. It's under the Minister of Environment as well as the Minister of Natural Resources. But I also think as our Minister of Northern Development, I think it's good for us to meet. We could also meet with the Minister of Natural Resources, but we can, as we meet with the Minister of Environment, we can bring that issue up as a caribou because that's part of their mandate. So it's Minister of Natural Resources, Minister of Environment, but I also think Minister of Northern Development Mines would be a good opportunity to discuss that. I'm not too sure where you are with the LNG, Daryl, in regards to the infrastructure and everything's falling in place. If there's need to be discussing there, we can also incorporate that.
Yeah, we're still tracking to submit our application to the Ontario Energy Board in July. So the timing to meet with Minister Rickford, if we can get that delegation at AMO, would be well timed, and we can certainly bring him up to speed on our application.
Okay. Anybody else in regards to their thoughts? Councillor DeWucci?
Yeah, in light of the, our seniors, our living complex, both through Councillor Lake, through the DSAP, and through our own, I guess, lobbying, would it be prudent for us to also send out something to either the appropriate ministry about either delegating spaces for First Nations or delegating spaces for, I'll say, assisted or, what would be, I can't remember the program that was under the seniors. Yeah. In that issue, because we do have some vacancies and it would be nice if we were able to fill them with specific needs within our community.
Yeah, we've actually been quite successful with
Yeah.
our local DSAB, and we have up to 5 units
Yeah.
that are subsidized from the DSAB right now. So I'd be surprised if we got more. 3 is the norm, so we've done quite well. So
If you look back in the historical meetings we've had with the minister in regards to that, they've continually sent us back to the DSAB and work with your DSAB. So I'm sure if we do meet with Municipal Affairs and they'll continue to say that, go back to DSAB, which we have now built that relationship with them, and you're right, we have seen some opportunities to assist. But we can definitely continue to meet with DSAB and see if we can increase that subsidy amount. Yeah. So they have turned the page in regards to our previous struggles with them a couple years back. So things are working in the right direction for us. Do you feel that those are the necessary things we see, that those are the things that Marathon is struggling with, is continue to get the mill property transferred 100%? So that will hopefully take place in July with the court, as we know. And if not, then we'll at least have the opportunity. If it all happens and we get it done, we can then meet with the minister, say thank you very much. Let's look forward to moving forward on the economic forefront of that property. The infrastructure with the LNG as well as the Active Living Center, and Northern Developments with LNG and Caribou, and Ministry of Natural Resources in regards to the Caribou. I think we can take that as part of the lead, if you like. Councillor Lake?
Yeah, I think that we made a good decision as council during the strategic planning session where we said we're going to maybe do less things, but we're going to do them better.
Yeah.
And I think staying on message on those few things, especially the harbor, the arena, and LNG, and I mean, if there's anything that certainly that Beatagon wanted to move forward with, that's the partnership we probably have the most invested into. But let's just do those, like we've said, let's do those things really well, and hammer those messages home, and then it doesn't get lost to government when you're trying to say a million different things, right?
Okay, yeah.
So Your Worship, just 2 other items that we'll insert into those delegations. So I think it's probably prudent we bring up broadband with the Ministry of Infrastructure.
Right.
So the provincial broadband strategy is coming out,
Yep.
likely in the fall timeframe. We've just submitted our application to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund with our partners T-Baytel and Terrace Bay, so we can certainly highlight that with the minister. And then the other one that I would suggest we bring forward is with Minister Rickford, is the aquaculture project with
Sure.
Coleman
That'd
Row
be
and
good timing.
Beatagon.
Yeah, okay. That'd be perfect. And I think also with the broadband, and we know we've had the opportunity in the past, didn't work out with the broadband, is the actual availability of now storing the information in the servers in the cloud. So that opens up. Well, I know that there's servers and there's a cloud, and somehow they're connected, so. And you need cold water to keep them cool. We got lots of it. Yeah, so that might open some opportunities up in that field. It's like the 12-lane highway, right? We're only using 3 or 4 lanes, but we have 12 lanes in some areas, but we don't. With the broadband, I think we can open up the whole 12 lanes of highway and have accessibility for that type of business. Okay, good. So you'll put those requests in, and we'll go from there, and hopefully we'll get some good response, see where the government's at. Okay. I have a motion here that council hereby adopt the 2018 financial statements presented by Grant Thornton. That was just took place earlier this evening. We had a presentation in regards to the financial statements audited from 2018, and everything was well. Administration's doing a good job in regards to keeping municipalities' finances in order. And we had a few suggestions, and we'll definitely follow up with all the things that they recommend and how we continue to be transparent. And there was one key point they did make to us, and they have said this in the past, is that Marathon is very good in transparency in regards to their overall financial situation with their residents and their audited statements. So we're doing a good job. Not so much us. We're here just spreading the word. It's our administration team that's doing a great job and keeping the municipality on track. So with that, I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Valens. Any questions? No? Good. Call question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And council hereby authorize administration to transfer a 2018 operating surplus in the amount of $157,449 into a funding reserve for contingencies that pop up from time to time. So I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Councilor Zingra, Councilor Lake. Any questions? Hearing none, I call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we have the 2018 fourth quarter, 2019 first quarter bid approval reports have been received from administration, as well as the Emergency Services Department monthly report May 2019 is received. Any comments or questions on that? There's a couple of verbal announcements. As you know, the Chamber of Commerce has, during the week of the 75th anniversary, offered up some keychains that are still available for $5. And they offer opportunities for discounts at the local businesses that have signed up for the program. The Royal Canadian Legion, Station 4, Isabel's Flowers and Gifts, Biloxi's, IDA Drugstore, Crossover Video, Pizza Hut, M&M Food Market, Spinoni Motors, and Marathon Bowling Lanes. So take an opportunity to buy one of those keychains, take advantage of some of the programs and offers that are being provided by those local businesses, and it helps the local chamber as well, and of course the local businesses. And as always, we have events going on all throughout the week. Started off yesterday at Penn Lake Park with the opening ceremonies, parade. There was well-attended car show, great weather, good candy and food, and great healthy choices by the Marathon Family Health Team. Then today there's a family barbecue that was hosted by the Historical Society. There's a trivia night that's being hosted right now at Biloxi's, starting at 7 o'clock. Drop out and enjoy. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, group of 7 guided trail and hike meet at Carden Cove. Wednesday, we have items at the Community Regional Career hosted by Northwest Employment Works. 4 o'clock, Marathon Legion Market hosted by the Legion Branch 183, local vendors. 6:30, group of 7 guided hike, Penn Lake Picnic Hill. And 7 p.m., open mic hosted by the Marathon Moose Home. These are all events that are posted on our website as well. Thursday, 8:30 a.m., council will be assisting staff to make up some pancakes. Everybody welcome at the Marathon Lakefield Community Hall. 75th birthday party touring this year down to the library. Celebrate if anybody's 75. Come on in for cake and coffee. Outdoor family movie night at Dyers Field. Friday, charity barbecue hosted by the Investors Group. 5 p.m. movies throughout the decades brought to you by the Jingrod Girls. At the theater, mixed slow pitch tournament at Dyers Field hosted by Pick River Sharks. Kids dance, Moose Home. And on Saturday, all-day event at Penn Lake Park hosted by Jack Pine Tree and Landscape Design. 5K color run hosted by Marathon Family Health Team. Hemlo open house hosted by Barry Gold. Blues will be available. leaving buses, sorry, Blues. Buses will, the Blues will be available, I'm sure, maybe later on in the evening, but not so much in the afternoon. Buses will be available and we'll be leaving no later than 12:30 to return to 5. Bouncy Castles, barbecues, tours, equipment, and displays. Street dance hosted by Town of Marathon, winding down the events of the week, and that will be at the arena parking lot. And of course, Sunday, June 30th, closing ceremonies at Penn Lake Park. So participate if you can. Tag up with some old marathonians that you might see in town. Have a chit chat, say hello, and welcome everybody home. Prior to going to adjourn this meeting, we are going to in camera to discuss proposed pending acquisition disposition of land by the municipality or local board. So with that being said, I got a motion here to adjourn at the hour of 7:50 p.m. Mover, Councilor Valens, Councilor Lake second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you and have a good night.